Ladies and gentlemen, the bottom left-hand corner, he's going to be your Yellow Terran from Sidestorm Gaming. It's GUMIHO.
And in the top right, his opponent, the Red Zerg player, also from South Korea, for Kitesy Gaming. This is Solar. And I find it pertinent to make mention to the fact, like, oh, okay, yeah, the players from South Korea, and you might go, Rushi, this is a South Korean event. But can I remind you, there are foreigners competing in this season qualifier here. We've got Astrea in the mix somewhere along this path. So hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about somebody that isn't a native of South Korea, but it is a hopeful piece of information that we are starting to encounter more typical things in the StarCraft 2 realm. Foreigners able to compete in the GSL Open Qualifiers means that the country's opening up again, and it just gives us a greater breadth of games to experience as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's really great to see. I think the last time that we had a foreigner really come over was, I mean, I would say probably like when we had Scarlet, Neeb, and No Regret, you know, who all made into GSL. I think that was really the last big in time that you had foreigners that were able to come live in Korea for a while to play in the GSL. So it's great that we're getting to see, you know, Astrea now moving over there, going to be playing and trying to make his way through those qualifiers. So we'll see how he does. Of course, you know, one of the best Protosses in America, right up there with Neeb, top 2. Some people would probably even consider Astrea in the current time just better form-wise. Of course, achievements, you know, that would have to go to Neeb, but regardless, it's going to be interesting. But we don't really have any Protoss in this match. It's going to be your usual, your Terran versus Zerg. This is the bread and butter of SC2, and we have a little bit of intrigue in the form of GUMIHO, because of course after he has come back, we've started to see him mix back in his mech flair to all of the matchups, and he's been finding some success with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that is really, really going well in the in just the realm of StarCraft 2 for him. So can the Magic Brain, the piece that we need to imagine is whether or not he's going to be able to capitalize on that success going forward here. 3-minute mark, we're just boiling up a really, really nice, just a really nice basic ZVT. Both players taking a nice macro approach. Solar is going to take the triangle base, so that makes things a little bit more condensed and compacted for creep spread and for trying to build up into his normal macro, but also it is going to be a noticeable change for the way GUMIHO can try and engage here. And this might be actually a little bit calculated. GUMIHO not necessarily known for his bio level play. He usually likes to lean a little bit more into mech, and bio play could be very good in the sense of getting on top of like the ledge over here at the third base location, and kind of harassing in a couple of different locations. Queen did have a difficult time really rotating around, but at this current conjecture, probably not going to be a major deal, especially since the battle cruisers here, Firebird. TitanOnFire. Sorry, I made that mistake one too many times.
It's all right. That's probably my own fault for being wishy-washy with my name. But yeah, it's going to be the battle cruisers from GUMIHO, and what else do we expect from the mech god himself? He will be heading into the capital ships very, very early. Now, battle cruisers are definitely a unit that has kind of, it wanes and, you know, waxes in popularity, and occasionally battle cruisers are really, really good, and then sometimes they're not. And in this map pool, it definitely is dependent on the map. We've seen Maru pull out the BCs on a map like Hardwire, where it's a lot easier to get into that mid to late game kind of turtle Terran, and he likes to go mech on that map. However, GUMIHO, he does not have the restrictions of that mortal mind where you think you're limited by map choice. No, he says, listen, I can do it on any map. He's going to try and pop in here in 2,000 atmospheres, and that ledge, he said, is great for bio, hopping up and down. Well, it's also good for a battle cruiser. Unfortunately, it's also good for queens, which do already get a lot of damage onto this BC, down to half health and even dropping further. And GUMIHO is just going to fly on out. TP's in, flies out and says, well, that's that, and now roaches are across the map trying to be annoying.
Well, and this is kind of an interesting scenario here. The battlecruiser does get bullied back to the middle of the map, and it does need to be repaired, but this is a lot of units that has to be dealt with here by Solar. He is getting into the natural expand. Workers immediately have to get pulled off of the line, but largely that's just going to be a rescue mission. That's not going to be something that he has to try and deal with right here, right now. The battlecruiser has returned back home. There is going to be a tank at the top of the ramp, and ultimately this does kind of get picked up in a grander sense. So not a whole lot of economic damage taken care of, but Solar does manage to defend it on his side of the map as well. So it ends up being a little bit of a wash. It's just a matter of what the transition ends up looking like for both players.
Yeah. Absolutely. As you end the second battlecruiser already popping up, that Spire is going to be on the way, but it's not going to be available for a while. And now that you have 2 BCs, you have your Yamato Cannon available, especially to one-shot those queens. You're immediately going to see that second Spore Crawler placed down in each base from Solar. And this is just, you know, crossing the T's, dotting the I's. The Yamato Cannons should go down onto the high-energy queens. Good transfusions from Solar, but now they're going to be running out of energy. 3 queens are going to fall, and the BCs will start to find some value, but still it is not, I think, at this point, enough to really make up for how much you've invested in them. Sure, you don't die to the Roach attack, but you really want more from the battlecruiser at this point in the game for it to be worthwhile and to stop the Zerg from just continually macroing up and continuing to grow on the map.
Well, one battlecruiser is going to get dangerously low here. It is a decent amount of damage onto some of the structures here. Going to pick up a gas extractor as well. And he's just doubling down on this. He's picking up an additional battlecruiser, and that might be where it ends here. We do have double engineering bay at the back of the natural. It is going to be Mutiling Bane as the response here for Solar. So as long as he can continue to defend and hold himself together, he should be in a position where he can keep himself calm. He can get his map presence taken care of. I mean, we've got 10 mutas now popping out. This is actually a moment where, yeah, GUMIHO does need to warp the injured battlecruiser back home, but I think these mutas are just going to pull everything back in general. Double Baneling Nest? I mean, obviously that's got to be a mistake, but, like, amazing. I love it.
The ingenuity that comes out from Solar, you know, we always look at him as a forerunner of Zerg builders. The mutas are going to find their way into the natural. Missile Turret is already almost done. Nice cancel there. He's a good one. Going to put some workers back onto it. And Loss is starting to get a little bit out of hand here. 8 SCVs have gone down in total. Marines are starting to fall. The battlecruiser is going to be able to push them back, flying over a bunker. It's never good for the health of those mutas. And on the other side of the map, GUMIHO is still being annoying with these 2 BCs. He's going to be able to get this mineral line at the 4th, stop that from mining, and even if mutalisks do come back, this is 2 very, very healthy battlecruisers, so you have to be careful about where you engage them. And so far, it's just kind of been a push and pull in this game. Yamato cannons will go down, and then the BCs should TP out these 2, having that spell still available. Get a few mutalisk kills, and behind this, well, GUMIHO's heading into bio. He's transitioning already into the next stage of his game with the 1-1, with the armory, and with a 3rd now almost fully saturated.
GUMIHO getting so much value out of those BCs. I mean, look at the units lost tab here. It's almost 2.5 times the impact of loss here for Solar. I mean, GUMIHO has been ridiculously effective with his units and only really losing units that are really easy to replace. So 4th base being built on location, but like you said, that transition's already underway. And the scary part is all of the units from the first portion of the game, they're still here. There's still 3 battle cruisers that are souped up and ready to go. And GUMIHO is going to be able to come across the map here with a big bio push. And I think Solar's going to have a difficult time defending it. He's not quite prepared.
2 tanks with this, the Hellbat's still alive. And of course the battlecruiser can just keep those mutas back. Solar's going to try and pounce on top of this army. It's a great choke point, though, set up by the tanks. Banelings are mostly going to roll through, a few of them still alive. GUMIHO should be able to focus fire that down, though isn't able to, and actually a great Bane connection on the last Baneling there. And Solar is able to clean it up. GUMIHO just getting a little bit too zealous for his own good. He's not quite able to make for himself out of that hole, but the 4th command center is almost done. The 2-2, I think, is the big story here. I mean, Solar's upgrades for his Ling Bane are atrociously far behind at this point.
Yeah, it's +1 on the way. I mean, these mutas. Finally, we've got some corruptors on the field, which is good. That's going to help. At least they're going to be a little bit more sturdy comparatively to the mutas. I understand why Solar was heavily invested in just keeping his muta count going, but he's just lost so many mutas at this point in the game. 9 in total. That's 900 on the resources lost. His +1 melee, +1 carapace is just about to finish up here, but it's a stark comparison to the 2/2 upgrades for GUMIHO's bio, which, like, I guess I'm kind of making myself a little caster curse here. We talked about how GUMIHO doesn't often play that much bio, but right now he's finding a lot of comfort just diving right on into a good bio composition.
Yeah, and of course the BCs still being alive just means that they've continued to get value throughout this game. As, I mean, really ideally, I think you want to see this bio back up. Of course, the air army for Solar is quite deadly. You got that +1 on the mutas. If you're not careful, they can dive on into a mineral line with 17 of them available. Yeah, you're going to need at least 2 missile turrets per mineral line to stop that if Solar ever decides that that's the route he wants to go. But of course, you have to be careful, because if you commit your mutas across the map, then there's the chance that the bio is going to be able to find a trade. And now we are seeing GUMIHO start to get his forces gathered here on the left side, but it's not that convincing of an army. Sure, it's 2/2 Marines, that's great, but I knew you also have a whole lot of Ling Bane here for Solar, who's actually going to start streaming across the map. There's a lot of Zerglings going to try and find their way into that third base, and they should be able to. GUMIHO not really responding just yet. I mean, I guess pulling the trigger, but no, it's just with the battle cruisers, you have to pull everything back, but you're going to see a lot of damage come through here for the Zerg. Solar is eventually going to back up, but it's not before he does find a good amount of damage onto the reinforcements, but the muta's getting caught by the Marines. A lot of corruptors go down, and now some of these BCs have free reign in the base. There's only 3 queens left. GUMIHO has been continually knocking down the queen count, and Solar, I think, has, I mean, I'm not sure exactly what has happened, but started to fall apart. Just the value from GUMIHO enough, and he wasn't able to find damage with that Ling counterattack.
Yeah, the issue that Solar started to run into is that once the BCs went into the third base location, suddenly there were no units to fight against the battlecruisers. They were all across the map. It was mutas getting a lot of damage done back at home for GUMIHO. There were corruptors helping out as well, but that was it. The queens were left to the defense all by themselves. So now that gives GUMIHO a stronger push back location here on the right side. The 3 o'clock base, that is absolutely going to fall. There's no way of breaking this in its current conjecture. And GUMIHO's not going to stop there. He's going to scan into the 4th base location, starts to see what lies before him, and begin the assault forward. On the other side of the map, I think things are relatively protected. I mean, it's a planetary fortress at the 9 o'clock base, and Solar's going to have to commit a lot of these Banelings to try and knock things down. I think that might be the first battlecruiser killed. Okay, the second one, but still.
Yeah, I mean, the battlecruisers finally fall. Here we go. Baneling's going to stream on in, and it's been good splitting so far from GUMIHO, actually. Is going to be able to clean up most of the Banelings and the Ling Bane. He will take quite a few losses, but you trade out army for army. Overall, it's going to be pretty worthwhile, and now you have just a whole another wave of Terran that's going to be coming across the map. And you said the 2 battlecruisers go down, but there's still 1 left, Rushi. These battlecruisers have just been, I mean, an amazing investment so far for GUMIHO, and even with just this 1 left, you still have that Yamato cannon to knock something down. It's just Solar really not winning the efficiency game. He's lost 7,000 more minerals, 2,000 more gas. It's very hard to find a comfortable position when you've been that inefficient, and the Terran really hasn't, been taking economical damage. It's not like Solar has been trading army for workers and bases like you'll see some Zergs do. It's mostly been army for army, and in that case, the Terran's usually pretty happy.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, GUMIHO's got to be feeling great right now. Just this units lost tab just continues to be a victory screen for GUMIHO. He just needs to be able to close out his own actual victory screen, just trading out super effectively, utilizing all of the resources that he has at his disposal, and he's starting to get into a little bit more of his own mech composition here. We've got Thors in the mix as well here that's going to be able to deal at least a little bit more harassment damage with these Mutalisks and Corruptors in the sky. But I'm starting to think that Solar is really running out of a little bit of steam here. He is getting into Ultras. The Ultra Den is down, and those upgrades on the way alongside like Adrenal Glands, as well as +3 Carapace, +3 melee. But GUMIHO's coming to strike right now. Both players are maxed out, but Solar has to find a way to engage onto this appropriately, and he might just be able to make it happen with these Ultras, but he still has to be creative.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Ultras here are kind of a trick because sure, it's going to be 3/3 Ultras very, very soon, but they're not going to have those +3 upgrades yet. They're not going to have Kindness Plating. And also, if you haven't noticed, it's 3 factories back at home for GUMIHO. He has been triple pumping tanks, and so as soon as he notices that Ultras are here, then he can absolutely just start adding on even more. As it's going to be a pretty nice surround here for Solar. He's trying to fight on 2 flanks, but you just see that tank line doesn't go down that quick. Even without upgrades, they do that extra bonus damage versus armored, and that just shreds through the Ultras. Finally, the upgrades are going to come through, though. Kindness Plating, +3/+3. The surround is here. The Banelings, though, not finding good connection just yet, but it's only Marines. It doesn't matter, though. The mech, it just trades way too efficiently. And sure, GUMIHO does lose a lot there in terms of his bio army, but still has tanks, still has Thors, and he can absolutely rebuild those and continue to push this position.
Oh, I mean, you're talking about those upgrades. Solar's upgrades finished just as his army started to wither away. So 3/3 wasn't quite available for those Banelings, those Lings, those Ultras. And now we're starting to see GUMIHO be a little bit more efficient here. Now, there are some opportunities here for Solar to try and punch back on the opposite side of the map. Corruptor's going to get some value onto that Planetary Fortress to try and pick things off, but this Bio army is on the retreat right now. The tanks, not a part of the fight. They are still a little bit unsieged, which is making it a bit more difficult. Finally, the Corruptors are going to win the war against all of the Planetary being repaired, but the reality is that Solar's got to find a way to really sweat this out here. It is 161 to 129, so let's not undersell Solar's position here, but I mean, this is a really scary army that can be incredibly efficient if microed well.
Yeah, he's been able to maintain his supply lead very, very well. And again, I think the issue right now for GUMIHO is it's just Marines. It's no additional tech. The tanks, sure, they're good against Ultras. The Marines, they do jack all against these Ultras. They tickle them 1 HP at a time. And finally, we're going to see GUMIHO retreat, but he's down 90 supply. And that's just the weakness of having such a Marine-heavy army as you continue to try and transition into the mid-game. I mean, it feels like GUMIHO, he's kind of got stuck right now on just Marine Marauder tank when, I mean, you're only on 5 racks. He has 3 factories. Actually, no, doesn't have the 8 barracks, but is just not using all of his production because he can. Even at 60 workers, it's just, I mean, I don't really know what has happened here for GUMIHO. Of course, losing that base at the 4th does hurt, and the 5th is probably going to get knocked down as well if Solar decides to go in, and he will. But it just feels like GUMIHO, you needed ghosts. You needed, those tanks. He was on the right path, but then continued to push with the Marines and just took not the best trades there multiple times in a row.
Yeah, this is starting to become a lost war here for GUMIHO. He's starting to dwindle. His gas count very, very strong, but the mineral count just isn't there to support the army. So he might be able to pick out this base along the right-hand side of the map, but that could possibly be his last success in this game. But I mean, it's not out just yet. I mean, 3-2 Bioforce. Actually, it's 3-2. I mean, that feels like a bit of a mistake here. Losing out on the +3 infantry armor upgrade. That is an incredible disadvantage here for GUMIHO. He's going to be able to converge on this army. These tanks are the last bastion of hope for GUMIHO, and Solar is just going to bulldoze him down. Having concussive shell marauders is going to be a bit more helpful, but the ultra upgrades are there. Lings are going to come streaming on in as well, and this is a lost battle here for Solar, or for GUMIHO rather. GG. Solar's name popped up on the screen and it came out of my mouth, but he claims game number 1.
All right. And when I say I would like to see a more macro-oriented build, it's just that I would like to see GUMIHO, especially on a map like Glittering Ashes that is so large, definitely embrace that transition. You know, have the tanks on the way. Yeah, go into that. Get your tank upgrades because he had no armory upgrades that entire game. So even if you have the tanks, which in theory do very well against the Ultras, that's 3-3 chitinous plating Ultralisks versus 0-0 tanks. They're not going to do the damage that you really want. And as well, just, you know, getting up additional command centers, starting to turtle up, you know, very much how we see a lot of Terrans at the top level. You know, Maru, we see Beyond starting to do it as well, a lot more frequently, where you are sure trying to apply that pressure with the Marine Marauder, where there may be a tank push here and there. But the main focus is getting up your base count and getting up a safety net so that you can safely mine off of, you know, 4 to 5 bases and get into a very, very strong late game army with your ghosts, with liberators, tanks, and if the game calls for it, adding in something like maybe Thors.
I mean, at the point where you get into the late game composition, especially for a player like GUMIHO, that usually ends up being a very strong position for him. I mean, he's very comfortable rocking mech in all types, but as we saw in game number 1, I mean, that Thor really didn't pack the punch that it needed to. He had a couple of them in that army composition, and it makes me wonder if GUMIHO will stick with a bio-focused composition here in game number 2, as Glittering Ashes might have a few more opportunities for mech to be viable. Getting into the factory early on, not definitely out of line. I think it's important to keep in mind as well that this all started game number 1 with a battlecruiser rush. So if it's possible for GUMIHO to get into that position as well, I think it could transpire into better things if GUMIHO wants to just stay on mech after that battlecruiser opening, because he did remarkably well. He kept all of those battlecruisers alive, incredible amounts of damage. If he is able to capitalize on that by putting himself further ahead with his battlecruiser choices, I mean, that could just be another way for GUMIHO to secure this series and at least get himself to a game number 3. But it seems like it's going to be different this time around. An armory in the production tab here. I think we're going to get some Hellbats. There's a little bit of a timing here for GUMIHO.
Yeah, Rushi, do you like barbecues? You like to go out on a Saturday, you know, midday, cook, like light up the grill and, you know, put some Zerglings on?
Oh, I mean, I don't like the Zergling barbecue, but like anything else, just throw it on there. I'm ready to go. It's Memorial Day weekend here in the United States, so the grilling is abound, and it seems to be the case here for GUMIHO. He got the message and wants to get in on all of the fun as well. So additional units coming in. We will have this medevac picking up and moving across, and it should be, yeah, those Hellions should be pretty close in tow, I would think, but maybe he's going to try and sneak them across the map and surprise Solar as much as humanly possible, because I hear Solar not as excited about barbecue.
Yeah, but also, mind you, Solar is a player who will know how to deal with the Hellbat opening. He opened Roach's last game, I think, just in case there was anything like that. There was that early aggression. This game, that's not going to be the case. We're going to have this small little strike force. In the main is going to be 6 Marines and a Hellbat, looking to see how well they can trade out. 1 Marine immediately going to get picked off, and now the Hellions will make their way towards the Natural. Actually is going to be left open. I don't think Solar was expecting that. The Hellions, ooh, there was a nice drone stack there. It actually gets a massive shot. 12 drones already falling down. And, well, GUMIHO, I think you found the damage that you were looking for. Now the Hellions going to retreat up into the main. Going to look for some more drones, and, well, the barbecue is continuing. 14 so far have fallen. The medevac will go down, but you're going to be able to trade off against these Lings as well. GUMIHO, you've invested a lot, but you're pretty happy with what you've got.
Oh, yeah, that's got to be an incredible amount here. So at least as long as he's able to make it worth his while and get more than he gave, that's obviously going to be the best way for him to come ahead. And that certainly was the case since he was trading out relatively cheap units for very, very important drones at this point. And he's going to double down on the backside of this as well. He does have Cloak Banshee completed here. The Banshee production has started. There is one moving across the map that is going to almost pick off that 4th base coming in, but now it is going to have to move along. But the important part here is that it showed itself, and Solar is able to try and respond at least as fast as possible. Spore Crawler coming into that mineral line here in the main, but it is still going to be plenty of time before that is able to be deflected away. Bulk of the Queens hanging out at the third base.
Oh, yeah, this hurts as the Zerg. 21 drones have gone down. You now have Hellbats trying to knock down this fourth. The Queens will be brought over. They should be able, yeah, to stop that base from falling, but still, the fact that this Banshee has now found 8 drones worth of damage on top of the 14 that were already gotten with the Hellions, it's not the prettiest start for Solar, and you can definitely tell he was not expecting that kind of a build on a map like Glittering Ashes, where it is such a long rush distance. But GUMIHO still decided to opt for it, and it's worked incredibly well. Now you have the Spire on the way, so it looks like we'll most likely be heading towards Lingbane Muta once again. But I think the real issue here, Rushi, is that Lingbane Muta, it's obviously great when you're ahead of your opponent and you can get massive swarms of Lings. The Mutalisks can dive into bases while you overwhelm the front. When you're sitting only 7 workers ahead, though, and your 4th base hasn't even started to get saturated, this Zerg, really the amount of army that they're going to produce is not going to be that scary to the Terran, at least at this point in the game. If Solar can, of course, add on a 5th, start to get, you know, that Mutaflock out and find damage with them, then maybe the game will snowball. But for right now, GUMIHO, I mean, it's probably an even better spot than the early game of Game 1.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It now becomes Solar's main objective to get as much damage done with these Mutas as he possibly can. He does have 8 coming out right now. GUMIHO trying to keep the pressure on alongside it with just kind of a potpourri army. He's got Hellions, he's got Marines. They're going to work on cleaning up the creep. There are still 2 Banshees that are going to try and find as much damage as they possibly can. 9 kills on one of those Banshees so far. But this distance in supply is incredibly close for these 2 players. Almost neck and neck, which I would always feel gives the Terran player just a little bit of an advantage, because you'll start to see the income really take shape in the form of mules and additional opportunities that the Zerg player is going to have to invest in elsewhere. But I mean, 84 to 67 is a helpful place for Solar to try and be from. Now he has to find a way to make this count here. His Mutas are going to dive into that natural expand, but really don't find anything so far. And this is a scary push coming in from GUMIHO.
Yeah, I mean, GUMIHO was so ready for the Mutas. He already had those missile turrets set up just because he knew, hey, this is an option. Right now my opponent's on complete Lingbane. There's going to be something, and he suspects that it was the Mutalisks. He was correct in that assumption. And these Widowmine shots already starting off. Oh! Yeah, you know, that's a pretty good Widowmine shot right there. It painted a nice little heart for us to show how much GUMIHO loved that shot, in fact.
Oh, God, that was just a disgusting amount of Lings that got picked off there. The barbecue wasn't even our biggest concern in this game, Titan. It just ended up being the fireworks that took place after the barbecue. So GUMIHO with all of the fanfare here in game number 2. He's trying to give himself a little bit better footing here. 180 to 169 does jump up a little bit for Solar here, but he's not quite finding the damage that he needs to with these Mutas, at least not right now. But he does find the secret hidden base here at the very forward location.
Yeah, man, I just think the issue is the army size. 88 supply to 116. The Lingbane, you want to have more Lingbane than your opponent has bio, and that's just not the case. Oh my God! Those Banelings just do not find any value. They explode on Marauders and Widowmines. And this is, you know, after GUMIHO has completely repelled the Mutalisks, has been controlling the Marines in his main base extremely well, with the missile turrets already up. And right now, I mean, he's looking for this 8 racks, just pressure, and it's going to take a lot for Solar to be able to break this, because you also have GUMIHO. I mean, saturated that 4th already. They're on even bases right now. And GUMIHO's ahead in supply. This is just, I mean, this is how you snowball a game if you are GUMIHO, as he has just a few Widowmines set up. Now we're finally going to see the Banelings rolling in, but it's just so many Marines. And GUMIHO pulls back. Solar can't even commit on in, because he knows that if he does, it's just going to be a grinder of death. And it's not looking pretty, but the Baneling hits are actually starting to find some connections. Unfortunately, they're all thinned out, and it's just the Hydras, and that means that these Marines have free ranges. They want focus fire on the cocoons, and Solar really does not have anything left. Now all these Overlords are also going to fall. There's a supply block, and this should very much be game as, oh, that Baneling, though, does manage to find an amazing connection. A few more morphing in here in the back, and Solar, is he going to be able to make this clutch hold? It looks like just barely, with that singular Baneling morphing in and finding the damage. GUMIHO still rallying troops across, though.
Now, I think it was important to note here that the 4th base location ended up being devastated by Solar. He was able to jump on top of the static defense that was located at that base, and he did pick off a sizable amount of workers. I mean, this engagement still isn't quite done, though. 132 to 117. GUMIHO trying to use these units streaming across the map to continue to find that additional damage, but it's been an expansion here for Solar as well. And despite the fact that GUMIHO was able to find a massive amount of damage, so many Overlords, like, I'm just waiting here for this army to finally get cleaned up. I think now we'll start seeing things cleaned up. I want to look at that units lost tab. 32 drones ended up going down, but it's just a sizable amount of units here for GUMIHO as well. I mean, 8 medevacs getting cleaned up on top of it. This ended up being a much better exchange for Solar in the end, but I feel like it came off of the back of really good decision making, putting pressure on this 4th base.
Yeah, the fact that he got the 4th base completely cleaned out, I mean, is going to be able to keep him in this game. The fact that you do that, and then also, when it's looking so dire, find that one Baneling connection. I think it was hidden even under some of the Overlords, and GUMIHO just could not see that the Baneling was morphing in. That means you find the connection, and now Solar, it's 150 supply to 128. You didn't lose a base. You're at 5 bases right now, as the Zerg are getting into lurkers as well. And for GUMIHO, you've had to float over the main, and where's your transition? Well, it's just more Widow Mines, it's more Marines, and he's not even going to worry about the Mutalisks, but he's actually just walking straight into lurkers, and that's so many Marines that just immediately go down. And you don't have any tanks, you don't have any ghosts. There's just nothing you can do to counter these lurkers.
Wow, this is a really nice defensive position for Solar. He's able to get a lot of good expanding going as well, and I think GUMIHO is starting to have a difficult time really responding in kind. The creep spread is not too bad going up to the north, keeping things at least connected so that way the units can rotate in and out as they need to. But the reality is that GUMIHO needs to find a way to stop that, and he's going to rotate all the way up to the top to get that done, but I worry that that's going to leave this base incredibly exposed. Now, there are a couple more turrets here to defend, and with significantly less mutas this time around, that will be a much more difficult position to push into for Solar. But his whole focus right now, focusing on this 5th base location in the top side. But there is another drop setup here as well.
Yeah, I mean, some good Widowmine connections, but it's just not going to be enough. There's so much Zerg here for Solar. Not even the whole army can be evacuated. The drop is going to try and find its way into the natural, but guess what? There's already lurkers there. Solar just playing some incredible defense. These Mutalisks, their number has been thin, but they're still wreaking havoc in the back lines of GUMIHO's economy. And somehow it feels like Solar is now in control of this game. He's going to look to try and close it out. And you cannot underestimate the value of a single Baneling, Rushi, because that is all that it takes for Solar to stay alive in this game and to suddenly be in a position where he is going to win 2-0 and he's going to qualify for GSL.
Oh, what a good game here. GUMIHO taps out. He's giving himself just a little extra time here before the victory screen comes up. So maybe GUMIHO not quite convinced that this game is already done, despite calling it out here. But yeah, this is starting to look like a great situation here for Solar. Solar looking to qualify for yet another Code S here in the GSL Season 2. The Lurkers should be able to all but lock this up. Oh my gosh, is GUMIHO going to make Solar kill every single building here?
It's the Destiny GG timing. He's just letting it settle in, saying, oh, yep, I guess this is happening. Honestly, can't blame him. GUMIHO had an almost unlosable position, and he just stemmed his Marines too far in underneath the Overlords, a single Baneling connection, and Solar just holds on by the hair's width, is able to hold on, and because he had committed his mutas across the map, that's all it takes. And it feels bad for GUMIHO, but of course, you know, sometimes that is how things go. Is he just gonna make Solar clean up all of his base? He says, "Listen, I played my heart out. Okay, you gotta at least do this. This is your extra little challenge. Add some time onto the clock, you know."
Oh my gosh.
They don't care. You know, there's no casters covering these live, so they can do what they want. But of course, Solar is gonna win. He's gonna qualify, and it was very, very close. 2 games in a row for GUMIHO. Had great openings, but just the macro, the decision making, and overall, the solid play of Solar able to come through in the end.
Oh my gosh, that was it almost took every single building there. That is incredibly wild.